Give me just a minute here. I'm having a few technical difficulties, but I got this. Here we go. All right. All right. Let me see here. Oh, camera. Got that. Give me 1 second. Sorry about this. My camera's not working. Give me 1 second. All right. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. I've had I usually don't talk about personal stuff at these webinars, but I've had a lot of drama this morning because the power, I live in Malibu, California, and they shut off all the power this morning to Malibu because that always happens when there's a fire risk. And then a huge fire started on my street, but like half a mile down. And but I drove to make sure I got to this webinar. I drove downtown and got a hotel room so I could show you this today. But you can see my screen, my logo and everything is a little inverted, which is not normal. But anyway, we're going to do this today, and I'm excited about this topic. This topic is about having others believe in you and your career. And one thing I can say personally, in terms of what's happened to me before, is whether it was getting into college or law school, or even my first summer associate job, or even after that, even the first law firm I got into, it was all because I had someone behind me that gave me advice and guidance and was able to help me in terms of how I was able to get into those environments. So having a mentor is in someone that believes in you is just about one of the most important things that you can have in your career. One thing that a lot of people don't know about is when you're trying to make partner in a law firm, especially large law firms, what tends to happen is you have to have someone that sponsors you. So it's not just like they throw out your name in most large law firms and then they vote. It's typically like, you have one person that you've worked with very closely. And if that person believes in you and makes a really strong case for you, then you're much more likely to get a job. I mean, to be a partner and if not, and if that person happens to be a powerful person, that's even better. So having a mentor in your career, people that get behind you and believe in you, is really just about one of the most important things that you can have in your career. And even if you are trying to be a partner in a law firm, you don't have any business, and someone believes in you, you can do it. And I've had I know of like several partners and major law firms that have been there for a long time, and they typically get most of their work from one powerful partner that believes in them. And so this particular topic of learning how to position yourself where others are supporting you and not the other way around is very important, because you may currently be in a situation where you're not getting the recognition you can deserve, or people aren't behind you and saying nice things to you or encouraging you. And so you need to be in an environment where you have that. And because there's plenty of environments that are negative. And as a matter of fact, most attorneys in large law firms, a good percentage of them, when I say most, I would say more than 50%. I'm not talking about like 90% or something like that, but feel like there's no one behind them and no one that believes in them. And I just have so many stories about attorneys that have had people get behind them. And when that happened, their whole careers changed. One of my earliest successes, I've told this story before, but it's when I started when I was in high school. I started this business where I was basically putting tar on driveways and seal coating them. And it was something that when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. And I did and I spent like a month doing it, and I just did horrible work. Like I didn't do the driveways right. There were things like tar that people tracked in. I didn't know how to use the materials properly. I didn't know how to use the tools to put it on properly. And I had all these disasters. And so I went out for a month, and And I had so many problems that my self-confidence was just like completely shook. And it was just it was a very bad situation. So I ran out of money. I was like bouncing checks, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I didn't have the money to go back and fix this. And my self-confidence was just completely crushed. And so I I took a job, a horrible job, as a garbage man. But working on the back of a truck and throwing bags into the back of it, and the people that I was working with, I wasn't fitting in like I should, so they weren't very nice to me, and so I did that, and I went to University of Chicago, and it started in like late September. So, and I got out of school, like in late May. So so I worked as a garbage man for like 6 weeks. And then I saved up enough money, and I'm like, I'm going to go back and fix all this stuff. And I had no intention of ever going back into the business. I just felt like from a moral standpoint that I should go back and fix all this stuff. And so I was in a hardware store buying materials and things to go back and fix it. And there was this man there, and he was looking at these materials and stuff, and he started asking me questions. And I sat there like selflessly, like I realized how much I knew about like what I was doing. And so I answered all these questions for him, and I ended up helping him. And then he said, well, would you go by and take a look? I've got this condominium complex, and would you go by and take a look at it and tell me what I should be paying? So it was like 8 o'clock at night. So I went out and drove like an hour out there, and I measured everything in the dark. And then the next morning I called him and told him how much he should be paying. And then he said, okay, well, thank you. That's great. I really appreciate all your time and advice. And I thought I'd never hear from him again. And then I got on my, went to work. I had a motor scooter. I didn't have a car. And I went to work, and I came back for lunch after, the morning working in doing the garbage. And the guy had called. My mother said to call him back. And he said, I would like you to do this job because you seem like you really care, and you spent all this time with me and you didn't have to. And I couldn't believe it, because it was like the equivalent of like $10,000. And so I went out and I rented really good equipment to do it, and I did it. And I ended up making like, the equivalent of like $8,000 over 3 days. And, instead of like the $6 an hour I was making as a garbage man, and it changed my life because this guy believed in me, and I'd given to him like selflessly, like trying to help him. I never expected anything in return. And then I realized I kind of had my big shot, and I went out and I did this job for him and made $8,000. And I came back to school, and I just had all this money, and I bought myself a car and all this self-confidence. And it was all because one person believed in me. And then all through college, and then law school, I would go out and I would do this for him each summer. And so, one person believing in you really makes a difference. And a lot of times, the people that believe in you, that will be people that you just go kind of the extra mile for without expecting anything in return. And you give of yourself, and you're honest, and you do whatever you can. And it's like that with, with friends, with people that have helped, that have helped you in the past. I had one guy and it's just actually just happened this week. He was someone when I was practicing law at Quinn Emanuel. He was this partner that was kind of my mentor and helped me, and was my friend, and did things like took me out when I was getting married for a bachelor party, and did all these really nice things for me. He didn't have to. And just really, really nice guy. And on Tuesday, he when was it? No, it was on Saturday or Sunday. He texted me and was like, "Can you meet me? I really need to get together." And he did. And so I went and met him, and he told me that his wife had kicked him out of his house, and he needed a place to stay. And so I was like, "Sure, of course." And so I have like a guest house, and he's been staying there. But it's like when people, when you do things for people selflessly, it comes back. And so that's one lesson I can just give you, that people will help you when you give the most of yourself to them, when you do more than is expected, when you're in school as a student for people, and you go the extra mile, and then you believe in your professors, and you get on their side with things. And it's like that everywhere. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is, you need to get people behind you, and you get people behind you by really doing more than is expected and being selfless. And this is what people do. This is how people make lifelong friends. It's how people get people behind them in work, and it's how people succeed. They don't succeed by just trying to do like a quid pro quo. Like, this is what a lot of people do. They say, okay, well, if you're going to give me this extra responsibility in my job, I expect more money. Or if I'm gonna, I deserve to make as much money as these people at other firms. You have to earn it, and you have to put yourself in a position where you're giving to people, and it's coming back to you, and it has to be selfless. And when people believe in you, and when you have people behind you, it's going to change the direction of your career, and it's going to change your life. And you need to do that. And it's sad because I work with all these attorneys that come to BCG, and I've been doing it for 25 years. And most of them are, they lose their jobs, or they can't get a job, and they're clueless, and they have no one to help them. So my role always is to step in, and I figure out like how I can believe in the person and what's strong about them, and I find their best qualities, and I get behind them, and I try to get them to apply to every job they possibly can, every firm they possibly can. And I fix their resume, and I write these long letters on their behalf, showing that I believe in them. And when I do write those long letters and do a really good job, it makes a huge difference. So if I don't write the letter and really believe in them and put myself behind them, their odds of getting an interview are probably 3 times lower. I mean, people want to see other people that believe in them. And if you have testimonials for other people that believe in you, then it's going to make a huge difference. It's going to really change the course of your career and life. And so this lesson that I've just given you so far really is one of the most powerful lessons you could ever get for your career, because you need to have others behind you that believe in you. And you only get that when you believe in them, and you make them feel good about themselves, and then you give of yourself selflessly. And these are the people that succeed. Like, if an associate in a law firm is up for partner, and they're billing 3,000 hours and making the same amount as someone that's billing 2,000 hours, well, that person that's given work that extra 1,000 hours is given to themselves more. And that's one of the reasons why, like, hours are something that law firms look at when they're judging you. Or the person that brings in a lot of business and doesn't expect his associate to get all this money from it, they just are contributing it to the firm. Like, those people advance. Same thing with partners. Like, you're always trying to give of yourself, because if you do, other people believe in you. And you just can't approach life and your career with this quid pro quo. You have to give more than you're receiving in order for things to come back to you. And when you get these people in your corner, it really makes a difference for your entire life and for your career. And it's just it's how things are done. They're done with relationships. I have another quick story that is kind of interesting. It's there's this guy that I know, and he had this electronics business where he was selling electronics. He was wholesaling them or something, and he was very young, and he'd come from Iran, where the culture and the way of doing business was you had to eke out every single little advantage you could in a negotiation and get the very best deal you could. And that was it. Like, everything was transactional. And he said he came to the United States, and he set up this electronics business. And he was trying to, there were these like type of PlayStations and things that were coming out. So there were like new PlayStations, there were old PlayStations. And he was calling someone to try to get these new PlayStations. I guess you make a lot of money when you sell one. You make like $200 or $300 or something. The profits are huge. And so he was calling and calling and trying to get this guy to sell him these new PlayStations as a distributor. And the guy said, no, I'm not going, I have a problem. I have $500,000 of these old PlayStations I need to get rid of. And I want you to take these. And if you sell these, maybe we can talk in the future. And so we said, okay. So we took these $500,000 worth of old PlayStations that the guy needed to get rid of, and he sold them, but he sold them at a loss, so he lost money. And then like, a year later, he didn't think anything of it. He's like, okay, I lost all this money for this guy. The guy called him and he said, this new PlayStation's come out, and I'm going to give you $2 million worth of them and to sell. And so the guy ended up making like over $1 million because he helped somebody, and he didn't expect a quid pro quo. Like he could have just said, I'm screw it, I'm not going to sell these PlayStations for you. So this sort of thing can make a major difference. And when people, and it changes career. I mean, now the guy's like, multimillionaire, and doing very well, all because of that big break he got. So, and then he continued to work that relationship. It's the same thing with making placements in law firms. I mean, you have to have the law firm believe in the recruiter too. So this is what it's about. I mean, the most successful people always have other people who believe in them. When you have people believing in you, it gives you like wind behind your sails. And so, when you're doing anything, you need to be the best you can be. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to talk to you about them today. But I've also had a lot of successes, and I can tell you that many of the most successful people, I mean, what they do is they get others to believe in them. I mean, think about what, we just had an election, and what happened there. I mean, that's a race to see how many people you can believe in them. I mean, you go around, you give all these rallies, and you spend all your time trying to pump people up, and typically the person that gets the most people to believe in them will win an election. And that's how important it is. It's not like you stand out there and say, I'm this candidate, that's it. And people that are successful, inspire people to believe in them, succeed, and they get more confidence, and they go places. You can be a president if you do this. If you can be the top of your firm if you do it. And then when others are believing in you, and when you're doing this, they're talking positively about you instead of negatively. And this is the problem that most people have, like attorneys, like they're in a situation where they don't get to that. They don't have employers that believe in them. And sometimes even when you're not doing well, your family may not believe in you, or your spouse, or and so you have to learn how to do this, and you have to really get to a stage where others are believing in you. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. I mean, it's one reason why, like, in the middle of a fire and a power outage, I mean, I rushed to do this because I didn't want you to miss this, because it's so important, and it can make just a major difference. I mean, you can be president, you can do, the more you do it, the better off you're going to be, and the more awards and money and happiness you're going to get in your career when you can get others to believe in you. It's hugely important. And you know, um, successful business people are able to get others to believe in them. That's how you become CEO of a company. That's how you become the general counsel of a company, or a partner in a company. You're able to get people that believe in you. And just think about people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like becoming governor of California and getting all these movies and stuff. He put himself in a position where he got others to believe in him. And there's a great documentary about him on Netflix I'd recommend you watch. It's very inspiring, and he talks about what he did to get there. And just imagine, he was living in a small town in Austria, and he set all these goals for himself, and got to the United States, and then decided he was going to be a famous bodybuilder to get attention. I mean, all these different things. And then he decided he was going to go into movies, and so he was able to get people to believe in him. And this is what the wealthiest people do. It's what the most successful people do. It's even what, and I hate to say this, but it's even people that run like stock scams and things, or Bitcoin scams. I mean, they're bad people, but they're able to convince people to believe in this Bitcoin, or this, whatever scam they're running. This is what it's about. I mean, you need to be careful too, but even like think about like someone like Bernie Madoff that got all of these people to give him money without any, statements or anything that made sense. And and just all these false promises and things, and getting people to believe in him, and went to prison, was successful before he got in trouble. And so if you're not getting people to believe in you, then you're going to be in trouble. And this is what life is about in terms of being successful. It's about what life's about in terms of making friends and making getting mates. It's about getting jobs. It's about everything. And so if you don't get people to believe in you, you're going to be in a situation where you're not going to advance as much as you can. Now, I'm not saying, I just want to be very clear, because a lot of lawyers and law students are introverts, and it doesn't matter if you're an introvert. I mean, you can be an introvert and get people to believe in you based on your work, or based on other things that you do. So it's not saying this is only for like outgoing people. Anybody can do it. But if you don't do it, you're going to be lost, unhappy, alone, and not as successful as you can be. And why do I say that? I say that because I have countless people that come to BCG as partners, and they may have 30 years of experience, but they don't have anyone behind them that believes in them. And because they don't have anybody that believes in them, they're unemployed and not getting to where they should be. And if you think about it, I mean, what is a criminal or a hermit or a social outcast or an unemployed person or a bum? They don't have anybody behind them, or anybody that's helping them, or anybody that believes in them. I'm like in downtown Los Angeles now, and you see just all these people like wandering around, and they're, it's sad. I mean, who do they have, and who's helping them, and they're alone. And this is the most extreme example of it. But when you're in prison, or you're hermit, or social outcast, or unemployed for a long time, it's often because you don't have people believing in you like you should. And it's even if you look at puppies. I mean, it's bred into them. They're trying to get everyone to like them, and they're wagging their tail and running up to you, and they're as friendly as they possibly can be, because they want someone to take care of them, and they just have this unbridled enthusiasm for being around people and spending time with them. And puppies, they want to be liked and accepted and taken care of, and by doing that, they get people to feed them and take care of them for the rest of their lives. And if a puppy doesn't get that, then they never find someone to take care of them. I remember I was living when I was in high school in Bangkok, Thailand, and there was this really friendly puppy that came up to our apartment. He was trying to get everyone's attention and get them to love him and things, but there was no dogs allowed, like where I was staying, and the guards couldn't do anything with him. And so he was really, really friendly for a couple of weeks. And then I remember seeing him, he never got a home. And then I remember seeing him like 6 months later, and he was just this angry, like mad dog, and, just not happy. So, without someone to believe him, same thing happens to dogs. And people are like this too. So if people feel rejected enough, then because no one believes in them, they often become angry. They end up in prisons and mad, and all these other problems. So if you don't have, excuse me, this, and and you don't have others to believe in you, then you're going to be in trouble. It's going to hold you back. And if you're not in an environment where people have believe in you and have faith in you and think highly of you, then maybe your environment is off, or maybe it's a sign that you're doing something wrong. So you need to look at, why is this environment not working out for me? Why do people not think as highly of me as I would like? So if you're going to succeed in your career, you really, really need this. And when I was young, I was, I guess, the equivalent of like a light juvenile delinquent. My grandparents paid for me to go to this private school called Liggett in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And when I finished my 8th grade year, well, they didn't invite me to return. As a matter of fact, like, it was kind of embarrassing, because the high school and the middle school were in different, they were like a couple miles apart. And so when they took everyone over to pick their classes and tour the high school, they just left me sitting there. They wouldn't let me go. And this was before I even knew that I was not getting asked back. I was like, wow, what's going on here? And I realized that something was wrong. And I mean, the school should not have asked me back. I mean, my grades weren't great. I couldn't seem to get good grades. They even gave me bad grades in physical education, and in a lot of cases, their grades were absolutely not justified. They just didn't like me. I didn't, they didn't get good grades, and so I did the wrong things. I didn't respect the teachers. I undermined them. I made fun of good students. I couldn't pay attention in class, and I was a liability. And I wasn't giving to the school what I needed to stay a student there. So that was someone, when you're not like that, it doesn't matter if you're in an employment situation or you're in a school, or you're in a social group or whatever. If you don't have them to believe in you, then you're dead. So and think about employers, like if you're there's always these groups of people inside of law firms. It's very, very common. There'll be people that are always going to be like on negative. They're going to be negative about the firm. They're going to gossip. They're going to be, people will pick up on it. Sometimes they'll go on these sites and talk negatively about the firm, and the law firms pick up on this. There's always people like this that are in the way out. I mean, this is just how things work. It's people kind of get out and don't keep jobs because of the way they act, and so the law firm will get rid of them, and so they will do it often regardless of how you do. They'll just get rid of you. And I remember seeing, I had a candidate once. She was at a big firm in Silicon Valley, and she one day, and she was this kind of person that would gossip and not think highly of the firm, and with other associates. And one day she was a very smart girl, and one day they just walked into her office, and she was just about 10 or 11 months in her first job, and they said, we'd like you to leave, right now. I mean, we just this isn't working out, and it's not your work, and they just let her go. So this is what can happen, and it's very common. So, there's a guy that worked for me a long time. He'd gone to the very best schools. He had done incredibly well there. He had like an MBA and a JD from like a really good Ivy League law school. He had worked at what I would say probably one of the one or two best law firms in the United States, and then he'd gone like in-house or at this, doing this business. And then he walked away from that, having made several millions of dollars when the company was sold. So he was very well off, very, very competent. But I hired him basically as someone to be my right-hand man, someone that would help me grow the company, make good decisions. And he had very good experience doing that. He had very good technical abilities, but he never believed in what he was doing. He thought the company was beneath him. He should have done better and be at a bigger company. And he'd actually moved from New York to Los Angeles to work for me. And people could tell this, and then he would go to conferences for our company, and he'd spend all his time socializing with people outside of the company. And so he didn't work out. I fired him. He was very surprised. It was one of the hardest things I could ever do. But he didn't get me to believe in him, and he didn't believe in the company and the people. So he lost his job even after making this huge move, to Los Angeles. And so he kind of made this mistake, and I still feel guilty about it to this day. But never was able to to get me or people in the company to believe in them. So this is very, very essential for success. And and when I got kicked out of the school, for example, the school was recommending me to basically go to these boarding schools for kind of kids that weren't doing well and needed special academic attention. And really were putting me in a place where they were basically saying this person's helpless. And so it didn't really make sense. I mean, I always did well on, standardized tests when I was young. I mean, I'm not bragging. And when I was younger, I got good grades and had been very achievement minded. But, at this point in my life, I was considered like the worst kid in my class and not doing well at all. Most of the kids, my school were from these wealthy families that very wealthy, that people knew who they were, and I wasn't from that same kind of background. I was rough around the edges. My mom had issues with substance abuse and stuff, and so people knew it, and just kind of felt isolated, and so I was in a bad home situation, made me want to act out, and contributed to my abilities to concentrate and fit in. So, I wouldn't get a lot of sleep. There'd be parties in my house like several times a week. And, I couldn't talk to other kids in the school, but I had problems because of that. And this was the cause of a lot of my frustration. And when I was kicked out of the school, I felt, you know, isolated. I wasn't, no one, people didn't think highly of me. No one believed in me. Suddenly I couldn't do everything right. And I realized, at that point that I was on this really bad path, where probably wasn't going to go to college, never get a job, and have a wasted life. And I was in a situation where, I didn't have anyone that believed in me. My parents didn't believe in me. My teachers didn't believe in me. The parents of my friends thought I was really bad and didn't believe in me. And the world at large didn't believe in me. So, that was the situation that I got myself into. And I fixed it. But you may have been in that situation before. You may be in that position right now. And it's not a good position to be in. You don't, you want to be in a position where you're supported and where people like you and where people think highly of your work. And so, it's very, very difficult if you don't have anyone in your corner, when, no one believes in you and the only feedback you're getting from the world is negative, and you feel very isolated and alone. I'm trying to help you right now. I'm trying to, support you and show you kind of the paths you need to follow. And just this one piece of advice could really just transform your career and life. Because if you're in a situation, which a lot of attorneys are, I mean, a lot of them, where there's just negativity, and it's just reinforced like day after day, and it's not good. And even at this school that I was talking to you about, when I noticed that no matter how hard I studied, I would automatically get bad grades. It didn't even, it was as if whatever I did didn't matter. And I started studying very, very hard, but I still kept getting bad grades. I would get bad grades on papers. It didn't make sense how bad, because the school just didn't like me. And it was pretty funny. One week I was in science, and there was one of the teachers was out for the week, and she gave us a test, and I ended up getting the highest grade in the class. And when the regular from the test, and when the regular teacher returned, she accused me of cheating. So because there were all these like negative beliefs and perceptions that were going into my work. And it could happen with you. Like, you could be in a law firm and suddenly be getting these bad reviews that don't make sense. And then, I mean, I had all these other things happen. Like, another occasion, we went on a field trip, and someone stole something out of one of my classmates' purses. And then the school just went right to me and accused me of it, because I had been seen in the same neighborhood of this purse, but with other kids, but they figured I was the only one that did it. So I denied it. They called my parents into the school. They accused me of stealing. They suspended me. And it was just absolutely crazy. But, when you get put in this role of being someone that doesn't look, that's not supported in the environment you're in, like, all these bad things will happen. I mean, it's just crazy. And in this case, I didn't steal the purse or the stuff out of the purse. And they almost weren't going to let, it was right before graduation from 8th grade. They almost weren't going to let me go. And then later in the summer, I ended up, after I'd been kicked out of the school, one of my friends was friends with another guy, and he was the one and told him that he did it. So by that time, I was too late. So, but the point is that, if you don't have people like behind you, if you're not thinking thought of highly in an environment that you're in, or it's just kind of neutral, it's going to profoundly influence like how you see yourself, but also what happens to you. And so, if you're in an environment where you just kind of got there's negativity, it can be self reinforcing and not help. It's people can just and law firms, they just tell people when they're having problems or whatever, they say, you've harmed your brand, like, so you've harmed your brand as an attorney, and it's not recoverable. So you can harm your brand with just one thing. I mean, I've seen partners be told that they did all this damage to their brand because they looked like they were drunk at a Christmas party, or just crazy things. Like people, one woman was told she harmed her brand because she turned down an assignment, and by saying she didn't have time for it. So, negative feedback isn't good for you. And if you're in a situation where you are getting that negative feedback, you really need to do what you can to move away from it, and to find yourself in a position where either you turn it around, or you start getting positive feedback. And this is one of the reasons people leave firms. You can leave a firm where it's just negative and you're not getting good feedback, and then you can find a firm where you're getting it, and that's tremendously helpful. It's a reason to move firms. And maybe you make a lot of mistakes at your first firm, or you go to the wrong firm and it was a mistake, but you can fix it if you put yourself in a position where you're getting positive feedback. So, the push for diversity is interesting. It's not as much anymore, but when what is interesting about like a lot of these diversity pushes, and I'm not approaching this from the standpoint of a Republican or Democrat, but people that normally wouldn't be advanced, maybe because they're prejudiced against certain types of people or whatever. Once they're taken out from the sidelines and given ways to achieve, they're often very successful. Could be marginalized groups, or people from different sexual orientations and stuff. And I'm old enough that I was at a time when there was like discrimination in law firms and things, and so you only found certain types of people. But now everyone is able to play on an equal field for the most part. And so these groups, that people that normally might have been marginalized, and people would have made negative judgments about, those people are suddenly people believe in them, and so they're able to succeed. And everybody wants to succeed. I mean, everybody wants to be liked by other people. Everybody wants all these things. And it often, if you have a spirit, it's going to push you to do better. And but you need people around you that think you're capable and are giving you positive feedback and believe in you and want you to become more than you are right now. I had a friend when I started practicing law in Los Angeles, and and I met him like right when I started, and he'd gone to my high school, but he was dyslexic. So he, back then you just took the LSATs and you couldn't get extra time or anything. So didn't do well in his LSATs. And the only school he got into in California was an unaccredited law school. And meaning the school was so bad that it means that it's not ABA approved. So if you go to one of these schools, the only place you can work, I think, is in California and New York. It may be different now, but those were the only states where you could work if you went to one of those and passed the bar. So he ended up, over the course of maybe 3 or 4 years after graduating from law school, first he went and got an LLM at, I don't know, one school, then he got an LLM at a better school, and he got an LLM at a better school, and then finally he got an LLM from Harvard. And he thought, now I finally got these qualifications to get a job in a big firm. And he did get a job in a big firm. He was hired by a mid-sized firm from New York that had an LA office, and he was hired by this firm. But he got there, and And he started, and no one would give him any work. Like none of the partners would give him any work. I mean, he was hired by, I think, the New York office to work there. No one would give him any work, and no one believed in him. And they just all had all these negative impressions of him because of where he went to law school. And so he went from this guy that was all self-confident when he started, his career, to being to feeling like this outcast, and just, and he's in this firm where all these people went to great law schools, and like no one, like he was just never going to succeed. And he's a very smart guy, very motivated. So he went out and he realized that, he had to prove something. So he left that firm and he got a job in a like a an LA-based firm of maybe like 100 attorneys, and the firm didn't have any other offices. And he got there, and they weren't paying as much attention to his schools. They were giving him work, and then he started billing all these hours and working really hard. And then he brought in, started bringing in all these clients, like when he was like a second year attorney, because he was just giving every single thing that he had. And he realized he had this huge opportunity. And then he worked more hours than your associates, and then he was bringing all this business, and no one else was doing that. And he ended up starting his own law firm with all these clients and becoming very successful after maybe 3 or 4 years of doing that, because he got in this environment where he was billing all these hours, and people were like, wow, you're the highest billing associate. And all these partners, were impressed. And then he started bringing in all this business, and they were like, wow, this is crazy. Like, no one at this level does this. And suddenly he had this firm that was just completely behind him, and believed in him. And I think after that, he didn't start his own firm immediately. He moved to like a really good firm, like the New York office of, the LA office was a big New York law firm. And he worked there for a few years, and kept this up of just having people believe in him, and support him. So you need people like that. And if you're not in that kind of environment, it can hurt you, because you need to be supported by people around you. And so when I had this happen, when I lost, I did, I got kicked out of the school. It was like a breakdown. I mean, it was like my life was over. Had absolutely no self-confidence. I didn't believe in myself. I was depressed. I felt like I needed to rebuild myself and become something more. I felt like I needed to, I got to the point where, I felt like I needed to reach deep inside of myself and find something, and use all of this negative feedback that I've got almost as like rocket fuel. Like, and what do I say by rocket fuel? I mean, instead of like getting down about something bad happening to you, you take what happens to you and you frame it in a way that it's going to motivate you and empower you to work even harder and to do even better. Just like my friend did, that went to this bad law school, and find something deep inside of yourself that says like, I'm not giving up. All this negative feedback is like exactly what I need, because it's going to make me even better. And so I got to a point, I didn't have parents that believed in me. I didn't have schools that believed in me. And I felt like I needed to change myself and become a much different person than I was, because I knew that I was smart enough, and I knew that uh, that I could do well if I really applied myself. And I needed to be around people that supported me. So when I was in ninth grade, I moved in with my father, on the other side of town. When I got there, it was the same thing. Nothing changed. I was still a bad student. I couldn't concentrate. I think today I'd probably say I had ADD. And I did the same thing of adopting this persona, which is the only one I knew at that point, of being a bad kid that I picked up while I was in this private school. And I'd basically given up on myself. I hadn't put myself in a situation where I'd actually failed enough, and where I'd gotten to the absolute bottom. And then, all this experience I had when I was living with my mother continued to depress me. And now I was living in an environment with my father and his new wife, and her daughter. And the stepmom didn't like me, because it was a competition with her daughter, but it was flunked out of school. And it was just, so I was in this environment where my stepmother didn't believe me, and thought I was bad, and just kind of reinforced that all the time. And the kind of kids I made friends with when I got to this new school were not good. One of them, I didn't stay at that school, but when I was like a senior in high school, I saw one of these two friends that I've been friends with, and he told me that, one of them had gone to prison for hitting someone with a baseball bat, a traffic stop. I mean, I don't know, something like that. And then, but then the friend that I met was, a drug addict. And, so I was around these people that weren't helping themselves. And so I finished ninth grade with a 1.7 grade point average at a public school without any real good friends. I didn't believe in myself, and I had all these issues that made it appear like I was destined to not do well. And so, why am I telling you this? Why is this personal story relevant to you? I'm telling you this because you may be in a situation right now where you feel defeated, and you're going to get in those situations in your legal career where you're going to feel defeated and where you're going to feel like isolated and like there's no path out and like you haven't done well. And so many people are there. You may be a law student in this situation right now, and you may be in an environment where, like I was, where my school, my environment, the self-image I was getting from my stepmother, it just shaped me in every possible negative way possible. I was still in the same environment. And then I was in 10th grade. I moved with my father and his new wife and overseas to Thailand, to Bangkok, and I got to the new school, and they knew about my 1.7 grade point average, and the same thing happened. I didn't do well. I was still having a really difficult time, still very depressed and down on myself. And this was only the first few weeks there, but I was getting bad grades and algebra in particular, not making friends, not believing in myself. And it was depressing. And, I was getting all this negative feedback. So, what did I do? Like, what did I do to take myself out of the situation? Because again, you may find yourself in a situation where you don't have others believing, you don't believe in yourself, and you think you're going to be held back by currently where you're working in your legal environment or whatever environment. And I want to show you how you can get out of that and change, because so many attorneys do. I mean, I know I know one attorney that failed the bar 3 times and was unemployed, and he ended up becoming a partner after uh, you know 8, 9 years of just working and advancing to firm after firm, and what I would consider one of the top 5 law firms in the United States. And there's a lot of people like this and lots of success stories. And so, what happened to me is I got in the situation and I started reading inspirational books I could find. I mean, I started, I had nothing. And I started reading the Bible, praying. I mean, even though I didn't really know a lot about, I guess I've been confirmed, but I started doing that, and I just was like, I surrender. Like, I don't know, I'm lost. What do I do? What do I do? And it's very interesting. Like, this sort of change from being to getting yourself in a situation where it looks hopeless to one where that changes. It's very similar to what they teach in self-help and a 12-step program. So like in a 12-step program, which you're probably not familiar with, but in a 12-step program, what happens is, like, someone that's got a drug addiction, or they're addicted to sex or alcohol, whatever, and they're spending money, they go into this 12-step program, and they're like basically at rock bottom. They don't know what to do, and they're just like, and I think the first step is they admit that they're a sex addict or an alcoholic or a drug addict, where they just like are like, okay, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a drug addict, or whatever. And they admit that to themselves, which is really the first step. You have to admit that you have a problem. And but then the next thing, like the second step, is you have to admit that you're powerless. Like, whatever you're doing right now and whatever's happening, you're powerless over fixing that problem. Like, you cannot fix it yourself. You just, whatever, you've tried, you're in the situation where you can't fix it. So that's like the second step. And then you get to the third step, and it says like, so you have to admit you can't fix it. So you basically have to give up your ego and be like, you can't fix it. And then you're like, it has to be the only way to fix it. If I can't fix it, and if I have this problem, the only way I can possibly fix it is to turn to just believe in something greater in myself that could help me. Like that could be God, or it could be whatever you want to believe in, but you have to believe in something greater than yourself. So I got to this point and I was like, I'm obviously like a failure. I'm obviously a bad student. I'm that's what I am. I don't know if I can fix it on my own, and because I've tried, and then I have to turn to something greater than myself. So that's why I talk about the prayer and the reading these books and things, because that those were things that basically took me outside myself and gave me belief in something better, bigger. And so the crazy thing is then it came time to run. There was a student council election, and I was like, I'm just going to do every possible thing I can to fix myself. And so, I ran for student council, even though I hardly knew anyone in the school. I spent like 2 or 3 days like writing my script over and over again. I started just studying like with everything I had. I'd come home, from school at like 5, and then I would just study till like 10 or 11 each night. I just never had done that before, but I did that. And right before I ran for student council, they had this, it was kind of cool. It was an interesting school, the International School Bangkok. They brought over this trainer from the United States to give for leadership training for everyone that was running for student council. And so they gave, and it was all about being a good citizen. And like, when you're walking by, you find a piece of trash on the floor, like you pick it up. You try to find the positives in other people, and you always build people up that are around you. You stand for the school being good, people around you being good, helping people, making people feel included, like all these things that I'd never learned. It was an incredible course. One of the most transformative courses. It was just, they just did this for people that are running for student council. And this class was really a blessing. It was one of the most impactful things that I'd done up until that point. And so it taught me like all these things that I was doing wrong, some of them that I missed, and that I'd never known about. And once I started doing that, things changed. And I used to be really, really good at soccer when I was younger, but I hadn't played on teams in a couple of years, 3 or 4 years. And so I tried out for the varsity soccer team, and I just did everything I possibly could. I ran the fastest. I prepared for all the drills and things, and I ended up getting in this team, which was not like making like a normal varsity soccer team. It was like all these Europeans and stuff that had been playing soccer like continuously since they were, 5 years old. And even though I was the last person to make the team, it was, for me, it was a real achievement. And then when I ran for the student council, like everyone else just got up and gave these 2-minute speeches. And I was like, I'm just going to do whatever I possibly can. I give like a 5-minute speech. And, and out of a class of maybe 300 people, I got like the third most votes in my class. And then when the teacher saw how hard I was trying and, asking for extra help and studying all these hours, my grades improved rapidly, because I was like, I just have to, pick myself up and get really, really, do everything I possibly can. And then I started getting all this positive feedback. I got the positive feedback by making the soccer team. I got the positive feedback from the student council. I got the positive feedback from my grades, and I committed to being a better person. And when people saw that, my life started to change. And math at one time had been really difficult for me, but this algebra teacher started encouraging me and helping me. And the same thing happened with history, English, and science. And then, I worked so hard in the science class, and I was never good at science, that the science teacher told me, took me aside and said, you should really consider pursuing this because you could be a doctor or something one day if you want. And he was the same teacher that had picked me to be the last student on the varsity soccer team. And but the point is that all these achievements like soccer team and things, all in student council and then grades, they all came because I put the most effort into things, and I got people to get behind me. And then with all this, because I changed myself so much, I even started like making new friends, and I started dating this girl that was young, but she was a professional model. And everyone was like, "Wow, who's this girl?" And I started. I was like the first person in the school to ever date her. But when people see you're going places and you're moving up and you believe in yourself, then it just everything gets better, and your whole life can get better. I mean, everything can change, and people recognize that when you do really, really well. And it was funny. I remember I was flying back. So back then, they got like the special deal, the people that wanted to fly from Bangkok back to Los Angeles, would all get these really cheap tickets on this Chinese airline to fly back at Christmas. And I remember for Christmas break, and so my parents were divorced, so I was flying back to see my mother, and that's actually how I met this model girl. Was on the plane. I sat next to her, but anyway, I was flying back, and we were like some stopover, like in Taipei or something. My math teacher was on there, and he came up and he was like, because my first semester grades in school were not good, and then, but my second semester grades were just like all A's. And he came up and he's like, back then, what had happened is teachers would have just one sheet of paper, and they would kind of put everything in a box alphabetically, and all the teachers would come in and write your grades so they could see your grades in other classes. And he came up and he said, everyone, all the teachers are talking about like this transformation. They've never seen like someone go from like, all C's and B minuses or whatever to just getting all A's as quickly. It's just incredible. And I remember that. I never forgot it. Because it just shows like how fast you can change. And so success comes from your hard work, your mentorship, and your commitment. People that are succeed are often not the smartest people, but they're the ones who show the most commitment and are able to get people behind them, and they have heart and drive, a desire to improve, and people always want people that are trying to help themselves. It's rewarded. I mean, there's certain cultures like France and things where it's much harder to get ahead unless you're from the right family or background. But here, people can do anything, and you have to get behind yourself, and you need to find inspiration in order to do it. And you need to, wherever you are, you need to pick yourself up. Like all the attorneys I've talked to you about so far have done that, and I did it. And so I gravitate towards what I'm doing because you don't need to be alone. Like you don't need to not have people behind you or the resources that you need, like I'm talking to you about right now, to get behind yourself. I mean, you need to become someone better and different, and nothing is hopeless. Like all these people that I've believed in, that I've helped. I mean, so many people with that have been unemployed for a long time, that have given up, and then they find me, and suddenly someone believes in them and sees what they're capable of, and knows that their environment that they've been in before may have been exactly what held them down, or they've been defined by past mistakes. And so when I finished my 10th grade at the school, I returned to Michigan, and I got into the school called Cranbrook, which it's a good school. I mean, it's been ranked like the top 10 high school in the country and stuff before. I don't know what it is now, but I got in there, and and there really wasn't even space, but they let me in. But when I got there, they said, you know, we're just going to forget about your ninth grade, and we'll just start you as a 10th grader with your grades from your last year, where were so good. And that they would just, you know, colleges would never see these bad grades, and that would make it much easier. And so I got into this very competitive school. And when I got in there, I was trying really hard. And I got into this class. There was this English teacher that was supposed to be like the hardest teacher in the school. Like he never gave A's, and he'd gone to Yale and he had a PhD in English. And then I started just giving everything I had to his class, like just writing these long papers and meeting with him and talking to him and believing in him. And then you know, even when I was a 10th grader, he's like, you're going to be like so successful, like you can go to Harvard or wherever you want. And he believed in me, and he just kept saying positive things to me, and he said positive things about me to other teachers. And he got behind me, became my mentor, and he kept telling me like all these things that I could do that, you know, prior to that, I mean, I never believed that I'd be able to get into like a good college or anything. I was like at the bottom. And he gave me all this feedback, and he told me what was possible. He told other teachers what was possible, and it made a huge difference, and it made me much better off. And you know, and mentors. The other thing he did too is he would tell me when I was making mistakes. He would say, you know, you did this in this chemistry class, like you shouldn't have done this with a teacher, or you know, you're associating with the wrong types of kids, and people are gonna judge you based on that. And so he told me like how to avoid mistakes, and like he told me, you know, all these things, like what not to talk about in your college applications. Like he helped me make my writing much better. He helped me really stand out, and you know, and showed me that I was looking at things often incorrectly. I wasn't thinking about issues and things, or you know, I wasn't doing the things right. So he put me on the right track. And so when you have someone behind you, they will tell you, you know, before you make mistakes or help you avoid mistakes. They'll tell you when you're making them, and they'll help you avoid those mistakes and wind up in a much better place. And you know, when I was in this first law firm, I did have a mentor, the guy I was telling you about now that got kicked out of his house. And he helped me. He had all this information about partners to avoid, and you know, what, you know, you did wrong in this, and what I heard about this and things. And so the kind of information I never would have gotten if I hadn't had a mentor like that. And you know, so the most successful people, and you need to be part of this group, they have mentors and others that have helped them with their decisions, and they also will recognize the good in them. And so if you have a mentor that you're getting behind, like, why did this English teacher get behind me? They got behind me because I read every book before, or you know, assignment before class, and I was ready to talk about it. And not only talk about it, I'd stay after class and talk to him about how cool I thought his class was. And then I'd write the best papers I could. I'd spend all weekend. And so you know, he saw this passion that I had, that I put into it, and it made him feel valuable for what I was contributing to him and what he was doing. And because he saw how hard I was trying. So you know, he didn't appear because I wanted a mentor. He appeared because he saw that it was worth his time and effort, that I was improving, that I would do what he said, that I respected him, and that I was working harder, and that I contributed and talked in class and respected him, and appreciated everything he was doing to help us, and his feedback. And you know, it was the same thing. I mean, if you're trying hard to be a better person, you're investing in other people, then it's going to look like it's worth their time. And if you have this energy you can direct in the correct ways, then you're going to be so much better. You know, and again, like I would submit that I'm not the best manager, but you know, when people have failed in my company, like the guy I was talking about with these great qualifications, they failed because most of the time I recognized that they were just kind of there for a paycheck, and they didn't believe in the work that we're doing, or the people, and they weren't able to build others. You know, they were just negative forces. And not trying hard, and talked and gossiped with the wrong people, and just kind of had this us against them attitude, and their mind was somewhere else. And so you need mentors. You need to look dedicated wherever you're at, and you need to look like you're supporting the people that are the right people, and the law firm, the company. And if you people are you're surrounded by people that seem negative and bringing out your faults, and that's not good. I mean, it makes a difference. So others' beliefs impacting your self-worth. So if you look back on your failed relationships, and I do the same thing, most of my failed relationships, when they've come to an end, have been because someone didn't believe in me, and that's happened to me twice. I mean, I have lots of personal stories I could tell, but one of my first failures was when I started my career, is I clerked for this judge. It was supposed to be a tier clerkship, and I was engaged, and I hadn't taken the bar yet, and so I was in a situation where I'd lost my job after my first year. I had no bar exams, so it was like, what am I going to do for a job? And I was living in this small town, and my future looked hopeless. And my fiance like literally just stopped believing in me. And she's like, I don't, and this guy's a failure. And she left me. And I've had that happen with other relationships. And so, if people don't see you in a positive light and believe in you, that's you're in trouble. And it can happen in relationships. It can happen. I mean, that's what causes a lot of divorces and things, that one party starts just being all negative towards the other, and because of that, everything kind of falls apart, and people feel isolated, and they don't feel good about themselves. And that's happened to me before, and that's usually the cause of failed relationships, is when one person doesn't believe in the other. They suddenly see them as negative or not good enough. And so, if someone starts seeing and loses respect for you, and they start seeing the negatives in you, it's going to take you down. It's going to deflate you. It's going to make you feel badly about yourself. And just think about your failed relationships, because I want you to kind of equate these with things that your positive relationships. So you'll get into a relationship, and someone may not think highly of you. They'll think you're negative. They'll think you're not whatever. You're not interesting enough, attractive enough, or whatever. They don't like how you interact with them, and so they end the relationship. Well, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That just means you need to find someone that believes in you, and all that sort of stuff. And so you go out and you find that, or maybe you try one and a person doesn't have it, then the next person, and then suddenly you're in this happy long-term relationship. And so it's the same thing with law firms and jobs or social groups. Like, just because you're not in a place right now where you're getting built up and feeling good about yourself doesn't mean that's your future. It just means that that's where you're at right now, and you're just in the wrong environment. And if someone sees the bad in you, or sees more bad than good, it's just going to make you feel horribly about yourself. And it's not your fault. I mean, maybe you're doing a bad job where you're at, and your heart's not in it. And so you're going to get the same type of feedback, but you need to be in an environment where you're getting positive feedback. And some of the best advice I can give you too is, whatever environment that you're in, you need to give it everything you got. And if you're still getting the negative feedback, then you move on. You might just might be in the wrong environment for you. I mean, one of the things that I've written about pretty extensively is the fact that your I wrote, one of the first articles I wrote was firm culture matters most. So you could be in an environment of firm culture where the people just aren't like you, like they're just too serious, or they're just whatever, or they're not serious, or they're not serious enough, or whatever it is. And you're not getting positive feedback. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means it's the wrong environment. And so you need to be in an environment where you're exposing yourself to people who see the good in you, not the bad. And if people see the best in you, then it's going to motivate you to improve and work harder. And if people are just seeing the negative, it made you feel badly about yourself, and demotivate you, and you need positive feedback. And I'm also not if all you're getting is negative feedback and you never think you're never going to get positive feedback, and you've been trying, I mean, sometimes the best solution is to do something other than practicing law, because there are plenty of jobs and things that you can do that are going to make you happy. And if the law, you know, you've given it everything you got, but it's just not going anywhere from you, maybe you just it's not clicking for you. Maybe you don't like having to report to other people and you want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what it is, but you need to put yourself in a job or a situation where you're happy. So what is this? This is our commitment to mentorship and personal development. So you know, all of these things, signs that you're trying to get ahead. So what are signs you're getting ahead? It's like reading self-help literature, it's studying, it's setting goals for yourself. It's you know, if you like religion, studying religion. If you can afford it, it's talking to therapists so you can reflect ideas off of them. And you know, some of the most successful people have therapists. There's no stigma. It's just like you're going to someone so you can work through your feelings and do better. You know, and if you apply yourself in work and you seek out mentors and you're constantly trying to do better, then that's a really good sign. And you know, and when you try to get better and you're improving, you try to put yourself in the right environment, you do very, very well. A lot of people have coaches, or they you know, read articles about what I'm talking about. They watch videos like this. I mean, I would just commend you so much for anybody that takes the time out of their day to come to this and watch these. Is, you know, you're in the top like 99% of people, because so many people go through their careers without trying to get this advice and trying to help themselves. And just this webinar, if this is all the only one you ever saw, you know, you learned so much. It would help you just transform your career and life. And you know, so there's all these things you can do. You can read self-help books by motivational writers and things that appeal to you. You can read biographies of successful people. Like, how did they get there? Like, you know, read the Elon Musk biography, which is dated now because he's done so much in the past 5 years. But you know, whatever. I mean, read what other successful people do and read. I mean, most of them, almost all of them, have gone through very serious ups and downs. I mean, look at someone like Donald Trump that was sued by all these people and hundreds of millions of dollars, and then all these criminal trials and all this negativity, and but still just pushed forward and did everything within his power to just to keep going and giving and rallies, whatever, but you know, just pushing very hard. And so, you know, but the other thing is, you know, you need to push yourself around people that help you, and you need to be part of groups that are going to expose you to other successful people, like you're trying to get better. Like, I'm a member of this organization called the Young Presidents Organization. And, you know, just to get in there, I think you have to have a business that does like $15 million a year in revenue. And then you have to have like 50 employees and a payroll of more than 5 million or so. I mean, it's pretty competitive to get into, but you know, I go to these things and like most of these people are actually far more successful than I am. And but it's exposing me to other people. So it's giving me, I'm pushing myself at a higher level to be around people that are going to help me improve. And so, you know, I do the same thing with candidates that come to me, and not everyone listens to me. A lot of times people think they know better, and maybe they do. I mean, it's their career, but I always try to train people to do better. And I try to hire people, you know, that are, you know, going to push and make people be better. And, you know, and I typically try to hire people that are, you know, if they came to BCG, that we could place them as well because they're marketable. So that can share the same experiences. And I want people to believe in others. So these are the best recruiters. Like a lot of recruiters are just like, okay, I'm gonna find this person, try to put them in this job. But if, you know, if someone believes in other people and they see the best in them, they always do much better. They do like 3 or 4 times better than someone that doesn't. So, you know, and I like to represent people that want to do better with good stories and ways to improve themselves and find more markets. Like, you should always be like, one thing with when you're doing a job search, like it's not just about finding a job. It's about like finding the right environment and the people where you're comfortable and where you think that you're going to be in a situation where people are going to help you improve. And so, and believe in you. So it doesn't, you know, oftentimes you're not going to find that just by applying to job openings on like Indeed or Law Crossing or LinkedIn. I mean, that's what most people do. But if you're not applying to jobs, maybe you just, some of the most successful job searches are when people just send themselves to a bunch of different firms that do their practice area and have good reputations. And oftentimes they get hired firms that don't have openings, but like someone like them. So, you need to do all that sort of stuff. And, so that's kind of the point. You need a mentor, you need guidance, you need help. I'm trying to mentor you right now, and give you help if and help you, in the right way. So this is just stuff about BCG. But myself, when I was failing when I was younger. But one of the hardest thing for attorneys, and it's very, very hard. I mean, this is not a profession that's welcoming. I mean, it's the exact opposite. Like, you get into law school and you think, wow, I've done well in college, or I got in this law school and I'm going to be so successful and I'm going to do all these things. But then, most attorneys, obviously half the people are in the bottom of their class. Most attorneys you come out and you're in school and you're not getting the grades you want. You're applying for jobs in the summer and you're not getting all the interviews you want, or sometimes no interviews. You're not getting the caliber firms you want. You're getting just all these rejection emails and things, and then you're just feeling rejected and rejected and rejected, and then you get into a firm, and you're still not experiencing like a lot of positive feedback. And this is one of the hardest things about being an attorney. There's so much rejection. And then even when you're a young associate, like, it's very common for law firms typically will give bad reviews to most of their first year associates, not because necessarily they're horrible, but because they want them to improve. So they're going to give them more negative feedback. And then, and you're just getting all this rejection. And then people are applying for all these positions when they're practicing attorneys and getting all this rejection. So it's rejection after rejection and rejection. And, and it's not easy. I mean, to get all this rejection, it's one of the hardest professions there is. I mean, it's just because of all the rejection, people are just not welcoming. They're going to discriminate against you based on your law school, your grades, your the firm you're at, your experience, like where you're at. I mean, all this rejection after rejection and rejection, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, I think this is one of the hardest professions there is for people, because you're just, and then if you're a litigator, you get rejected by the court, you get motions denied, and you get it's just rejection after rejection after rejection. And attorneys are pretty good about being rejected, but it's hard. It's a very hard profession. In my experience, when I was in a private high school, I was initially in a situation where I was rejected and rejected. I just experienced all this rejection, just like, you may experience rejection. And then, I went to this, then I finally ended up at this really good high school, and where probably 70 of the kids went to top 25 colleges. And then, and then this private school that I got kicked out of wasn't as good, and probably 15% of the kids there went to top 25 colleges. So what does that mean? I mean, why would people do much better in one atmosphere than another? Why would one atmosphere bring out the spirit of achievement and one not? The one I was school was in 8th grade, which is very regimented. Everyone was wearing coats and ties and very serious, and but it wasn't the same sort of thing. And then there was just not a lot of anyway. But the atmosphere at the final private high school I went to, I mean, teachers and students, and everyone brought out the best and best in one another. And there's, that's, when you talk about schools, and this is kind of an important point. When you talk about schools, like, what's the difference between like Yale Law School and Harvard Law School and like UCLA Law School, then like some local law school like Loyola in Los Angeles? Well, the difference typically is not it's not what you learn. Everyone's learning the same thing. It's about the people that you're around. Like, that's what you're applying to do. You're applying to be part of you're applying to work to go to a school with the smartest and most motivated people, because the ideas that will rub off on you, those people will put ideas into your head that about what what achievement looks like compared to people in other things. And it's the same thing with with the very, very best law firms. Like those law firms are going to have different standards and things. And but some places are going to bring the best out of you, and others aren't. So you want to be people that are bringing out the best you can in you, and people that are going to see the best in you. So yeah, so a lot of times you're gonna have to do it alone. This is not a pitch here for BCG, but people that I work with, I always try to encourage. I'm trying to encourage you right now, and and everything that you can do to be better. It's just a lot of work. I mean, this again, I'm not pitching BCG here, but it's the ability to try to bring out the best in you. No other recruiting firms doing these type of presentations and stuff, but I'm really want to help you. I want to coach you. I want to give you options. And so, finally, this is just a kind of the end of the story here. But when I was applying to schools, I didn't give myself a lot of options. I looked at schools that I looked at schools and a few schools, and I felt some of them I felt unwelcome. Before I ever got there, I just didn't click with them and the people, and it just was obvious. And then, I found finally a school where I felt comfortable, and I knew it would bring out the best in me. I just had a sense of it, and it was University of Chicago, and and my instincts were right. So, had I gone to the wrong school, which a lot of them would be, I would have had a negative experience. And so, you need to put yourself, in a place where you're going to be happy. Now, one of the things that is very sad, and I bet, that you, a lot of people, I mean, a high percentage of people watching this right now, they feel badly. They feel badly about but they're not on the right firm, or they're in their firm. They're not at a prestigious firm in their market, or maybe you're in a market, that is small, and you feel like, you're unhappy there. You should be in a bigger market. But what I really recommend you do is, not just try to consider the largest firms in the largest markets, but find a market and a firm where you're comfortable with people, a place where it's going to bring people, where people are going to bring out the best in you, and we're in a supportive environment. And a lot of times, people will leave these big cities and they'll move into these smaller markets, and they're just so happy. Like suddenly, people are respecting them, and they're feeling good about themselves, and telling them their work's good when they might have been in this market or in firms where that wasn't happening. So my experience was, when I got out of law school, I clerked for this far right conservative judge. It was in a post office, literally above a post office, and it wasn't a good fit. I didn't like and it's, again, this is not necessarily political one way or another, but I didn't like what was happening. I just saw large companies always winning. I saw the government always right, so everyone that was prosecuted always lost, and it didn't rub off on me. I didn't feel comfortable with it. And at that point in my career, I mean, maybe different now, but I didn't feel comfortable with all this stuff, and I didn't like that. Big corporations and people with money and power and the government were always winning. And I felt like this was not right. I mean, this is just how it works. It was a democratic judgment and the opposite. But it made me feel, like an outsider. It's like only the people with money and power were winning. And, so again, I, ended up after 1 year, losing my job because he saw that I didn't agree with him, and that wasn't good. He didn't feel supported. He had every right to get rid of me. I, wasn't, when I say I got fired, like I walked into his office and I realized I was getting fired, so I quit, but I was really getting fired. So, I had no job lined up when this happened. I didn't want to work in New York. Like I said, my fiance left me. There were, no place I could go to work. And, And, I also didn't want to work in Detroit because I knew that, this judge knew everyone in Detroit, and it would remind me of my past failures as well. And, so I felt like, uncomfortable. I didn't want to stay in the Midwest. I didn't want to go to New York. So not even having been to Los Angeles or California, I applied for firms there on my own, and I interviewed with several firms that were terrible fits. I knew I would not do well in them, but a few of them. And when I say I lost this clerkship and I didn't have a job, I mean that was another kind of moment where I had to like go back and like look at all the mistakes I've made, and all the interviews I hadn't done well in law school, all the ways I applied to jobs. And I actually did an entire course about this, and I'll send you information about it later. And I have a long video that talks about it. It's like an hour. It's part of something called Big Law Breakthrough, which I'll send to you probably in the next week. But when I got to Los Angeles, I spoke to all these firms. I found a firm that I was just like 100% comfortable in, was Quinn Emanuel, and it was a very small firm at the time, I mean, like 45 attorneys. The firm had a great atmosphere. People that worked there felt supported. And because of that, it was a place that grew. And, now it's this giant international law firm, but it made the people, at least me, feel comfortable, and other people, and like they made the right choice. So I ended up leaving. It was a mistake, but I learned a lot of lessons, when I was there, and I had things I thought negatively about that too, but I don't really want to. It's not a need to go into a lot of it. But for me, and I don't know what it is about you, but when I was working in law firms, I felt like at the time, and I was young, but I felt like I didn't necessarily have control of my future. Other people would control my future, and I didn't want other people to control my future. I wanted to control it on my own. I felt the only way I could do that was starting this company. And so this is what I do. Again, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about it, but I want you to try to discover yourself. I encourage you to watch as many videos as you can of what I have done, writing and things, and all of my kind of theories that you should always apply to as many places as you can. And you should, if you don't have mentors, you need to work on getting mentors, but you need to put yourself in the right environment where where someone is going to where people are going to get behind you, and it can help you. I mean, it's what you need to do. So be in a place where you can find people that can support you, and you can interview with firms. Sometimes you'll interview with a firm, and you'll be in a situation where you absolutely know it is, and where you don't, and but you don't want to wind up in the wrong environment. I had the story, I've told it before, but it's very interesting. One of my people that I knew when I was very young, he went to a top law school, and he clerked for the same judge that I clerked for, and was very happy because they were both like, shared the same political party and everything. And then when he got out of the clerkship, he came to me to help him with his job search. And I found this like perfect firm for him in San Francisco that was composed of, which is almost unheard of in San Francisco, was composed of all these conservatives, and it was small. It was like maybe 20 attorneys, and they loved him, and they really wanted him to work there. And then, but it didn't pay. It was not below market by maybe 20%, not a ton. But then he got this job in this huge law firm in New York, and just had this horrible experience where he was working 7 days a week and just hated the environment, and then just quit. He didn't want to do it anymore, and then kind of bounced around after that. But had he stayed in in the environment that would have supported him, he would have had a much different career, I think. And so, so you want to make sure you're right. You find the right environment, and And again, I don't want to go into any more detail about this because we've covered a lot, but the main point is that, you want to be helped, and you want to put yourself around others that are going to encourage you and aren't going to put their self-interest ahead of yours. Like you want people that are like that, and you want to put yourself in environments where you feel supported, and where you're able to contribute. And it's not just other self-interest. And then you need to fill yourself with all the information you can and mentors to be the best person you can possibly be, and have people on your side. And if you do that, your life is going to change. I mean, this is one of the most important pieces of advice I think anybody could ever get. And there's very few people. And if you think about your life, like who's gotten behind you, maybe it's a parent. I mean, most people hopefully have parents that are behind them, or maybe with some other type of mentor. But if you have that, it can really, really help you. And just realizing what each environment's like, and always trying to improve yourself with self-improvement information. I know one of the most successful partners that I know, very, very successful guy that's got like, $30 million in business. Like, he goes running every day, but when he runs, he always puts on his headphones and runs with his phone, and always has all these like self-improvement authors and stuff during that hour. So he, instead of like just using that hour to run, he uses it to help him improve. He's always improving. And this is how people like him get very, very successful. That particular partner, I think he's got a guaranteed base of $7.5 million a year at his firm. Plus he gets bonuses and things. So, you have to, do all these things, and do the best you possibly can. Yeah. So, I think that's about it. Let me just see here. All right. Options. Yeah. So we'll take a quick break just for like 2 or 3 minutes. And then when I come back, we will do questions. You can answer or ask as many questions as you want. This is a live webinar. So I will, this talk today has been more motivational than like nuts and bolts, but it's provided, I think, a lot of groundwork. Having listened to this so far, I think you've done a tremendous investment in your career, just spending this time with me today. But yeah, so we'll take a quick break just so anybody, I'm going to just get a glass of water, and then when I come back, I will do, let me just hear questions. So thank you. I'll be back in a moment. All right, just give me 1 second. I will pull up a Word document for us. 1 second. And then we will do questions. Just give me 1 second. All right. Sorry, I'm just setting this up for questions right now. Give me 1 second. And I'm happy to see that there's people are asking questions. That's good. And I've said this before, but questions are one of my favorite things of the week, because I really love hearing what people say, because A lot of these webinars are just me talking, which is good. But I think the most important thing that I like the most is being able to hear from you, and the things that that questions and things that you may have about. Make sure I fix this here so it's big enough. Questions you may have about your career and what you're. Well, this is so small. Whew, okay, but that's bigger. So give me just 1 second and I will pull up the questions. It's a little difficult because I'm on a laptop. Questions. Is up? No, I can't see these. There, give me 1 second. A little bit of difficulty for some reason. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, sometimes people are, asking these very long questions, and I really appreciate it because this is awesome. Okay, first question. What the hell is this? I think I copied them all. Sorry about that. That was a mistake. Let me just do one more thing. Question anonymous. Okay, and it's good if anybody asks these questions and they're not anonymous, I always delete your name. So, okay, so here we go. Okay, so the first question is, it looks like I pasted them all. Is it better to keep being employed and apply to as many firms as possible, regardless of what social media clients have said about a firm? An attorney's reputation are often associated with one firm. Some firms have all positive reviews, some do not have stellar reviews or have mixed reviews. We cannot know if the reviews are true or false, or a person's viewpoint may be subjective. What is a good way to take into account of a firm's reputation based on reviews? Or what is a good way to find out if we ask former associates, one person may have a positive experience at the firm and another may not? How important is it to take account of this factor in a tough economy? Okay, so typically, most people are gonna that have a bad experience are gonna write reviews. The people that have a good experience typically aren't gonna write reviews. So most of the time when people are writing negative reviews, they're writing negative reviews because the firm didn't like them, the firm fired them, they didn't get along, and sometimes people, or they may have failed, and they want to blame the firm, and they don't want to take their own to be accountable of it. So if you read bad reviews, I never really don't take them seriously at all, because there's a couple things that I understand that are important about law firms. The first is that law firms are broken into different cities, but not only that, they're broken into different practice areas. And so some people may have a really bad experience working in the corporate practice area, but people may really like working in litigation, and people may not like working in corporate because maybe there's too much work, or maybe there's not enough work, or maybe the partners the partners in charge are not nice and people don't like them. So you never really should take into account too much about what people are saying on social media and things about a law firm. The most important source of information for you is really going to be just when you interview with the firm, because sometimes you'll interview with the firm. Like, I knew this one woman that got a job with Skadden, and she was working for a partner that did art law. That was it. And for her, she said it was like the most mellow, like easy job, like just pleasant that she'd ever had, because she was just working for this one guy. There wasn't a lot of stress dealing with art transactions. And she just had a great experience. It was never stressful or anything. And so people will talk about firms like Skadden or other big firms and say, oh, how stressful it is, and how hard it is to work there. But it's not the firm, it's the people that you work with. So I never would really take into account reviews too much. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't really even read them before you go into a firm, because most of the time all you're hearing are sour grapes and people that have had a good experience there. But even if there's something wrong with the firm, it may just be the practice area. It may just be a couple partners. I mean, sometimes, there are firms where there's some extremely difficult partners to work with. And because of that, a lot of people have negative experiences. But it's you have to understand that it's not the firm, It's the people that you're working with in the practice group. So you find out when you go in, you can get that sort of information too. And now after you go in and after you potentially may get an offer or something along those lines, then you can start, investigating this stuff. But you shouldn't allow some people that have had a bad experience to sour you on a firm, because what happens in law firms, and it happens in most organizations, is people will get there and they may not do well and make mistakes, so they'll be angry and they'll, instead of blaming themselves, they'll blame the firm, or they'll just kind of be part of this group of people that are down and just negative. Like there's, everywhere you go, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, there's people that are negative and there's people that are positive. So there's people that will always get together in every firm. There'll be these groups of people and they just think negative things about the firm. And so, your job really is to avoid those people, because if you start being part of that, then the firm's not going to like you. You're going to feel badly about yourself all the time. You're going to feel badly about your job, and it's just going to affect your performance and everything. So you need to avoid those type of people. But it's always those type of people that are the ones that are writing the bad reviews. They're taking everyone else's negative stories and turning it into a drama. And then they have all this bad information that allows them to believe that, whatever problems they're having at this firm are not their problem, it's the firm's. And the firm might have been around 100 years. I mean, and it's not going anywhere. So the firm's obviously doing something right. So why would you, allow that to affect your whole future, like or that. So you need to avoid all that sort of stuff. You don't need to you need to just do your work and do the best you can, and not be part of that. And those are the people that write the bad reviews. And there's, I mean, people that write bad reviews, sometimes they're just crazy. Like, because we have reviews on BCG, and people will review firms and say things about them. But the firms that the best firms, I mean, the best people are never part of that. I mean, they just don't. How do you balance the quid pro quo of giving selflessly? People talk about getting the salary you deserve, and you should negotiate your salary, your credit for originating credit, or doing extra work done. Also, you said the guy you hired spent time socializing people at the firm conferences. Isn't this good to build a network? Okay, so yeah, good questions. So the first thing is yeah, the salary you deserve, and you should negotiate and get credit and all this sort of stuff. Yes, I mean that's all what you should do. And you can certainly negotiate your salary at different points in time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get credit for originating extra work you've done. But really, the best way of doing it, if you can do it, is to always try to have people give you this stuff instead of you asking. So if you do all these great things, then they'll give it to you instead of you asking. Or you'll get what's called political capital, meaning if you're someone that's contributing so much more than others, then you have more job security, of political capital. There's another point of this question that I just wanted to address real briefly that I think is really, really important. So people, a lot of times when they get out of law school, and for their first several years of their career, they're very focused on salary and and all this sorts of stuff. But really, when you get out of school, your job for the first 5 years is to get as much training as you can. So you're being trained, and you're trying, and this training is to make you into a better attorney. And so, this 5 years of training that you get when you start your career, you should try to get in the best firm you can and get the training. But if you get out of law school at the age of 25 and you're trained by the time you're 30, I mean, you're going to be practicing another 50 years. So you shouldn't worry so much about training earlier in money early in your career. You should really worry about the work you're getting, and then giving selflessly. Yes, I mean, those are the people that advance. So if you want to do a quid pro quo with everything, which a lot of people do, that's going to be noticed, and people are going to think, well, you're just a hired gun. You're not here to necessarily support the firm all the time, and or whoever you're working for. And if you don't get these things, you're going to leave. And you want to put yourself in a position where you look like you're committed most of the time, not all the time, but not all the time. So most of the time, if you're contributing a ton, you're going to be rewarded financially in other ways for that. But if you're not, like say you're at a firm, you're at a mid-sized firm, and that firm is paying 70% of what you could be making at a larger firm, and you're working just as hard, and you say to yourself, well, why don't I just go to a larger firm to make more money, because that nothing's going to happen here, and I would rather make more money, and I can do just as well in a larger firm. So yes, you can move firms. You can negotiate your salary often when you start. So sometimes a firm will make you an offer, and it's like way below market or something, you can negotiate it. And we do that all the time. But you want to be in a position where it looks like you're there to contribute, you're there to be part of the team, and you're committed to the firm, and someone that's going to stick around that they can trust. So people don't like it when you're negotiating with them salary and things all the time, because if you're doing that, then they feel like you're just going to leave and you're not really committed. And so if you're not committed, they're going to train and give the best work to someone else. So that's just how that kind of works. Okay. During the webinar, you emphasized that success is often tied to how much others believe in us. I've had some challenging experience where I felt overlooked or undervalued despite my skills and results. How can I foster an environment in my current firm or future job where others genuinely believe in my potential and advocate for my growth? Are there specific steps I can take in my day-to-day actions to build trust? So yes. So the big thing is just, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this question, but I don't want to go too far with it. But often you're not going to be validated right away. You'll over time, it'll take time to get validated. So you may just not feel like you're being noticed, but working really hard and doing really good work. And over time, like you're going to develop again, you'll develop political capital. So what is political capital? Political capital means, like, often when you've been at a law firm for several years and you've done really good work and people like you, it doesn't make sense to leave because you have all this positive momentum and brand. And so, the longer you're doing good work in a place like that, then you're going to be much more valued. And so, how do you be in an environment where people are believing in you and advocating for you? You show them that they can trust you. You show them, that you're loyal. You do the best work you can for them. You go out of your way to please them, and then often, there's some sort of, you're able to connect with them on a personal level, meaning, it doesn't mean you're friends with them, but they're, you're able to have a relationship, because ultimately everything is about relationships. And so the better you are with relationships, the better off you're going to be in your job. So you need to do whatever you can to try to foster good relationships, and then other people are going to be behind you when they feel like you support you. So, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is, partners in law firms, don't feel supported. I mean, their other partners are competitive with them. The other people are wanting to see them fail. I mean, they're often very much alone, and they're under competition to bring in as much business and all these things. And so when you're in a position where you're able to get others to, where others are, where you're supporting someone and they think you have your back, that's huge. Like, how many people, like, how many people's back do you have? And so if someone feels like you have their back, they're going to be very much behind you. So what does that mean? So if a partner can give you work and know it's going to be done well, if a partner can work with you and know you're going to talk positively about them, if a partner can work with you and know you're going to do everything you can, if a partner can work with you and know you're going to be respectful and talk highly about them to the clients, like, all these things make a huge difference. And so if you're in that situation, then that's going to help you grow. And if you do that for multiple people, that's also going to help you grow as well. So your skills are always going to be noticed over time, and your commitment's always going to be noticed over time. Okay, let's see here. You mentioned that having people believe in you can be a critical factor in advancing your legal career. I'm concerned that my low-profile role might make it harder for others to notice my potential or achievements. In a firm where I don't always get direct exposure to decision makers, what can I do to make sure that people start believing me? Are there particular actions and strategies that are more effective than others in gaining support from partners and senior attorneys? Okay, well, there's a couple of different things, that are important. So there's soldiers and generals. So if you're early in your career, you're a soldier, and what that means is, your job is to basically get orders and carry them out to the best of your ability, and to do whatever it takes to get that order done. So that's your job. Your job is not your job is to basically be a soldier for people. And when you're working for someone else in a law firm, the best way to think about them is someone that's your client. So it's like if you had a client of your own and whatever, you would do the best job you can. And there's two words. There's like a customer, and then there's a client. And a customer is just someone you're transacting business with. And what a client is, a client means someone that's under the protection of another. So you want to be you want to be like, you want that partner to be your client, meaning you're doing whatever you can to impress them and make them feel protected. And that's your job when you become a partner and get business. You're doing the same thing for your client. So if you're not getting exposure to decision makers, that's okay. And you may be in a low profile role, but if you do really, really good work and you work really, really hard, your profile is going to change, because partners, printouts, or emails of everyone's hours, and they see who's working the hardest, so they know that. They talk, and people that start out in low profile roles, if you do things right, and you act like a soldier and you do everything you can, you will end up doing very, very well. There's an article I wrote, but it's an article that it's an article that I also wrote an article about it, but it's based on a book, a short book called "The Message to Garcia in Your Career." It was actually it's a short book, and it was given to all the soldiers in, I think it was a World War II or something. And essentially what it says is, and you should read it. I mean, I really recommend doing it. And I actually give that article to all of the people that I work with at BCG that get interviews. But essentially what it says is, you get an order, and you do whatever it takes to complete an assignment. You don't ask questions. And so they talk about needing someone to land on the shores of Cuba and hike through mountains and everything to reach this Garcia guy and give him a message. And so the idea is that, most people that get this would be like, well, if you're putting me on the shore, like, how am I going to get to the mountains? Or are you going to give me any food? Like, what am I going to do this? What's this and this? How, I'm not sure about this. Whereas if this guy Garcia is asked to do it, he's like, sure, no problem. And you put him on the shore, whatever, and he gets it done. And so it's an important message, but it talks about, again, the difference between soldiers and it's just the average person. The average person is not as reliable as they could be. They don't work as hard as they could, and don't necessarily, get the same results. Okay, let's see. In my practice area, I feel like success is very transactional, and it's hard to find senior attorneys or partners who generally want to mentor junior attorneys. How can I build a support network or find people who believe in my career trajectory, even if immediate work environment doesn't offer these opportunities? Should I look outside the firm? What's the best way to approach it? Yeah, so a lot of times partners and senior attorneys are very, very busy, and they just want you to do work. And so no, they don't necessarily, they're actually not necessarily going to be your mentor. But if you work very, very hard for them for a long time, and they start seeing your commitment and you're helping them, then yeah, then they suddenly become your mentor. There may be environments where it's very difficult to get mentors. I mean, there's environments where, I talked to a partner not too long ago, like last week, and he was telling me literally that the associates are just kind of fungible commodities, and they use them when they can, and when they can't, they let them go or whatever. And they don't really have a future. And so there literally are firms like that. And if you're in a firm like that where you feel like that's kind of your future, then you should probably leave. It's always good to, whatever legal environment you're in, you have to like ask yourself a couple questions, like what happens to people in my situation? Like what does it look like for people that, are like me, several years from now? Are they still here, or are they succeeding? Because you need to be in an environment where people can succeed. And if that's not that environment, then you should leave. I mean, you should not waste any time in an environment where no one succeeds. I mean, it's a very, very important point. Avoid environments where people aren't succeeding. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you for your career. Is you want to be in environments where people succeed. And so sometimes the environment's not like that, and you'll pick it up fairly quickly. Okay, for someone like me who's interested in branching out to less traditional roles for attorneys, how can I encourage recruiters or hiring managers to see transferability in my skills? There's a way I can build trust and adaptability without compromising my alternative career paths. Okay, so recruiters are, most of them are pretty just one-dimensional. You have to have whatever the background is for whatever job they're recruiting for. So most recruiters may not be interested in working with you unless you're in a certain role right now. And hiring managers are, their job is to find people that are, that match the job. And so, if you're looking for a job and it's not something you have experience in, like, why would they bring in someone that doesn't have that experience when they can hire someone else? So how do you, so it's very, very hard to get people to see the transfer of your ability skills if they have a job opening where they're looking for someone that fits a certain profile. So how can you build trust and adaptability, without compromising your alternative career paths? I mean, to go into something else that's completely different, a different branch of law and anything, typically the way to do it is you have to often move to a smaller firm or a smaller market where there's not a lot of demand, or where there's not a lot of people that are trying to do the same thing. That's usually the best way. Or try to build relationships with people that may have those types of jobs. One of the things that people you can do is you can, it's, if you learn networking skills, and I have a lot of videos you can find on networking, you can often, get into that stuff. But it's very, very difficult to get anyone to hire you in something that doesn't match exactly, what that job is. I mean, why would you hire someone that doesn't have experience in a certain thing if you, if you can hire someone that has it? Okay, I've noticed some recruiters tend to view me based on the past rather than my potential, which can be frustrating. How would you suggest to counteract this bias and convince them to look beyond my previous roles and focus on my current aspirations and strengths? Are there key things that I should be emphasizing in interviews to help shift that perception? Okay, so how do you, how do people look beyond your previous roles and focus on your aspirations and strengths? Well, typically, again, legal recruiters are going to be pretty much one-dimensional a lot of times and only look at you for certain types of jobs. But if you're trying to get into something else, and that you're interested in, then you have to put yourself in a situation where you're going to look like the best candidate for that. And so, how are they going to like focus on your current aspirations? Oftentimes when you're trying to make a big switch or something, and you're very, very enthusiastic about it, you need to try to get experience in a place that's more likely to hire you, because they don't have as much demand. I mean, there's not as many people trying to do that, whatever that role is. And so when you apply, you look like, the best applicant. But, how do you, viewing your past rather than your potential? One resume tip that I can give you that's very, very important is anytime you're trying to do something new. So let's say let's say you're I don't know, you're a corporate attorney that also does real estate, and then your last job was only real estate and a little bit of corporate, and job before that was mainly real estate and hardly any corporate. Well, if you wanted to be a corporate attorney and get jobs just doing that, you would take off anything that has to do with real estate and just make it look like you've always done corporate, and not emphasize that stuff. So that's important. And then you need to when you get experience in whatever you're trying to do, and you're trying to move into something better, I mean, you need to look like you're ready for it. And so what does ready for mean? It means that you've shown commitment of whatever you're doing, that's hopefully tangentially related to what you want to do. It means that you're working very, very hard, and you have a lot of enthusiasm. It means that you're very, very interested in the subject matter. So whatever the subject matter you're trying to move into, you should be writing papers, you should be or articles, you should be joining different associations that are related to it, and just really kind of being seen and out there. And then that's the way to make a practice switch like that. But you need to grow into whatever that is, because then when you do get interviews, then you're going to look like the best candidate, because you're going to have so much more enthusiasm than someone that's already doing it. So let's see. Questions. Expanding to different markets sounds promising, but I worry about the level of competition and how my background will stand out in these areas. How can I present myself in a way that resonates with firms or clients outside my current market, especially if they could not immediately recognize the value of my previous experience? Could you offer advice to customize my pitch or approach to resonate with a broader range of audiences? Okay, well, I don't know if you're interested in moving to a larger market, or you want to move to a smaller market, and how is how are you doing that? There's kind of 2 points, I guess. One is, if you're trying to move to a larger market, you have to look like you're very good in your practice area, but maybe you're limited by the size of your market. So, for example, if you're in Detroit doing bankruptcy law and you want to move to a larger firm in New York or something, law firms are going to respect that, because you're trying to move up into a larger market. And so I've placed actually a couple bankruptcy attorneys from Detroit, New York. So that's why I bring up that example. So that can be helpful. If you're trying to move to a smaller market, often you're going to have very, very good experience, and there's not going to be from a larger market, there's not going to be a lot of people like you. So you're going to be very marketable there, because you have better experience than most people. So, so that's my suggestion. Now, I can't say that you're going to have an easy time moving from any market to another without having experience in one practice area. I mean, your resume has to be focused on one practice area. And I say this all the time, but firms hire specialists. They hire people that are a specialist in a certain practice area. So you have to be, like, I don't care what it is, like family law or trust and estates or real estate, whatever that is. That's how people are going to hire you. They're not going to hire you if you don't have experience. If you're trying to switch practice areas or something, most of the time. I mean, you have to. Your experience has to be transferable, and you have to do something that you have to commit to a practice area. And this is one of the most powerful pieces of advice I can give you. If you don't commit to a practice area and you're just bouncing around, you're never going to be as marketable as you can be. You need to be committed to a practice area, and so your resume, you need to look like you're focused on a practice area. That's the only way to get hired. I mean, if you were looking for a doctor and let's say you had, I don't know, brain cancer, like, would you go to a doctor that was a specialist in podiatry, or would you go to a doctor that is a orthopedic surgeon, or would you want to go to a doctor that just did cancer, or a doctor that did cancer and, I don't know, you would find someone that was an expert in the brain. And it's the same thing with brain cancer. It's the same thing with clients. Clients are looking for people that are experts in one practice area. It's the same thing with firms. So if you get experience in one practice area, I don't care what it is. I mean, I've had family law attorneys get 10 offers moving from Colorado a county in Wisconsin because there's no one like them. And so, you just, if you have experience in one practice area, you're always going to be marketable. Okay, let's see. Where we receive extra for people who attend your webinar. I don't think I received additional email. Okay, I don't know what that's. Oh, I'm starting send out an email about I have a 1 hour training about how to get into big firms. I'm going to be sending out, and I'll send that out probably this week, so you'll get that. It's just a 1 hour presentation. Do law firms hire based on our academic results in law school? If no, what are they specifically taking into consideration? Yes. So, I mean, this may be from someone thinking about going to law school. Yes. So law firms will hire you based on the quality of law school you went to and also your grades. So the way to think about law school is there's, I don't know, 30,000 people that graduate from law school each year. And then there's maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6,000 of those that go to top law schools, maybe not even that. I mean, 3 or 4,000, and then out of that 5,000 or 4,000, whatever, there's half of those people at the top of their class, and then a quarter of those people at the top of their class, and then out of those 10 law schools, some are better than the others. So when you come out of law school, the only thing that law firms have to compare you against are other people graduating from law school. So if you don't do well in law school, that's not going to help you. If you don't go to a good law school, that's not going to help you either. So you're sorted among those 30,000 people based on where you went to law school and your grades. And that's what law firms take into consideration. Okay, am I correct? Let me just see here. Inferring that we should eliminate negative people from our lives. Family, friends, members, no. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be around people that don't make you feel supported. I mean, you want to be around people that see the best in you and aren't telling you that you're negative or don't have potential or always talking negatively about whatever. So yes, I mean, you should try to not associate with those people. But what I'm talking about with negativity is in every law firm, in any employment organization you're ever going to be part of, there are going to be people that are positive and there are going to be people that are negative. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're going to spend your time associating with and being around the people that are, let's see here, positive and not negative. So, so that's, very important for you being successful. Okay, let me just see here. I'm just looking at questions. I'm looking the questions here to make sure. So copy this question. Come on. A couple more questions. I'm just cutting and pasting them here. Give me a second. For some reason, I'm having a hard time. All right, well, I can't find the question. I mean, I'm not going to type it down because it's saying to select all in someone's name. Thanks much for the info. It speaks to my soul and suggests much of the strategies I can use to stay motivated. I wonder if it made sense to keep broaching the subject of growth and development at a firm that isn't providing meaningful positive feedback. And what are all the suggestions, indications that the environment's not ideal? It seems useful to do while I'm still at the firm, but I'm having repeatedly do it. Create more self-esteem harm than good. Yeah, so you don't need to be talking to a firm about the fact that they're not providing self-development. It's either they are or they aren't. So if they're not providing it and you don't feel like you're going to get it there, then you shouldn't be there. You should move. I mean, there's no reason to stick around at a firm where you're not feeling supported and where it's not self-development. It's just there's no reason to. So you should never have to talk to the firm about that. If they don't have it, they don't have it. And so it's not something, if you don't see other people in the firm being supported, like associates and whatever your role is, then the firm just doesn't doesn't have it. And so there's, you should move. Okay, there's another question. This is the last one, I think, is where someone asks, if a firm lets you go for a random reason, do you tell potential employers that whether you agree with the reason or not, or what you do or say to left the firm when asked for details? So yes, so firms will let people go for random reasons. Sometimes you won't even know. Usually it's because they don't have enough work, or maybe they just don't like you, or think they can get someone better. But if you're let go for a random reason, typically the best ways of talking about it, if there wasn't enough work, you can tell them there was a major work slowdown, whatever. I mean, but you don't want to always put the blame on you. And most people that are unemployed, law firms are, if you're unemployed, they know you're unemployed. And if they're bringing you in to interview you, they don't care. Like they're like, this person's unemployed, we don't care. They know that bad things happen in firms and that people get let go for random reasons. So once they're interviewing you, they usually don't care, and they usually won't really ask you, because it just kind of sets everything up in a negative tone. So but if you do leave, and it is asked, then, talking about not enough work, or, different reasons that, you can give, you can say, it didn't feel like a good fit. I mean, whatever. But, most of the time, law firms really, if they bring you in, they're not going to want a lot of detail, because they do know that things happen. And yeah, it's kind of that way. All right, well, thanks everyone for being on this webinar. I think this is a very useful topic, and I certainly hope it helped you. I think there's a lot of information here. Yeah, I'll be sending out, I do have a training where I'm telling you how to go from like any type of situation you are into, into working into a big law firm, and anyone can do it. And I made a video about it, and I'll send that out this week to everyone. But thank you for being on the webinar, and I will see everyone next week. Thanks again.